Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about regionals. So I'm going to be going to the Virginia regionals, the one in Roanoke, and I'm also going to be going to Gen Con. I'm going to be playing in those regional events. We're obviously trying to win those events, but do the best we can. But we're going to be talking about deck choices for this event and what I'm thinking about playing. So the first deck that I want to play is Examon. I've been playing Examon for a little while now. I picked it up back in BT20 when the new support came. It's a deck that I've wanted to play for a long time, ever since EX3 released, and I haven't been able to play it. I ended up getting one of the decks. One of my friends gave it to me back in November. He gave me his Examon deck because he wasn't playing anymore, and I was really invested in making it a lot better. So I played Examon a little bit back then, and it just was not hitting. There's too many things to counter it now. And then with the BT20 support, it got a lot better. Wasn't great, but it did get better. And then we had the BT21 support, which in my opinion is some of the best stuff they could have done. With the new Dracomon X, super strong. The new Examon X, also super strong. But there are some issues with this deck. And now the biggest issue I am finding with this deck is actually this card right here, this Babydomon. Now, you might be thinking, why? This Babydomon's incredibly good, which you are completely right, but here's the other issue with this Babydomon. This is a red card, this is a red card, and this is a red card. When you brick with Examon, you can't really play the game. I played yesterday, and I bricked with Examon, guaranteed. I did end up winning this match, but my first three turns, I went, see this memory, this counter? I'm gonna move the camera just a little bit, right here. I went pass, 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 and I passed turn 3 times in the beginning because I just didn't have a hand that I could use. And whenever I would put a Digimon on the field, it would just get destroyed, so why bother putting it on the field? So I built up hand size. Now you might be saying, why would you play these red cards then if you're going to be doing that? Unleash the Dragon Gene to compete in this meta, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but to compete in this meta, this is a card that is a complete necessity. It allows 2 Digimon on your field. This is your delay effect. When any of your Dracomon or Examon in their text would leave the battle area, you activate the delay. 2 of your Digimon may DNA Digivolve into an Examon into the hand. So you have to have 2 Digimon on the field. And then we have things like this guy. His end of attack deletes everything. It deletes all Digimon, and being able to pop Unleash the Dragon Gene to prevent things from leaving play is super important, okay? Now, what I've been running into is I might want to play a card like this Groundramon, and I don't want to give that much memory, or I want to get this on the field. I cannot play Unleash the Dragon Gene when I only have a Babydomon here, and then play this out reduced by 3. Now, it still plays out for a total of 6, so it's 1 less. But the big thing is now I have that Unleash the Dragon Gene on the field. Or if I want to choke my opponent at 1, or if they put me at 1, I can't do anything, I want to be able to play this. You can't play it. And like I said, if you brick with Examon, you're kind of screwed until late game. Now, Examon can have a major comeback, but that's the biggest issue. And things like Crimson Blaze and Raging Serpentine. Crimson Blaze is pretty important for this current set, or this current meta, because like I've talked about, Megidramon plays out things when it's deleted. And that's a lot of what decks are currently doing. So you're going to be running into things like Puppets in the next meta, where it has a lot of token play. Or you're going to be running the Sakuyamon that plays out a ton of tokens, and being able to prevent that with Crimson Blaze is super important, because there are no blue floodgates that don't allow your opponent to play by effect. So that's one of the issues that I'm running into. Playing Raging Serpentine, I play 1 copy of this just to be able to destroy something with high DP for low cost, because when they have 3 or fewer security, you play this out for 4. So it's super strong. Now, what I'm looking into currently, and kind of like answers to this issue that I'm seeing, is playing the red Babydomon, which the red Babydomon is your turn while this Digimon is piercing, you get plus 2000 DP, which means Examon Ace, Examon X, Slayerdramon will all gain that 2k DP buff. Super nice, super strong, but you lack draw power now. And that's a big issue, because in addition to that, and let me see if I can find the card, this Dracomon X can only Digivolve over blue and green in Dracomons. So Now we might have to drop down on the Dracomon X, and that kind of affects some of the ratios. So that's just one thing that I'm seeing an issue with this deck. Now, one of the other things that I'm seeing with this is the Megidramon matchup can be difficult. There are games where you can completely close out Megidramon, but Megidramon has access to playing out so many cards. Here's the other one. That can just pop your Exa. Now, Examon has protection, but if you play out this Gallant on play, you evade, you unsuspend, he swings with Rush. Oh my gosh, swings with Rush, evade, and now you can't unsuspend again. And this guy, if he lives, if they have this in hand, they can play out a promo reduced for the same cost, destroy their Gallant, or just destroy their Exa Ace. 2 protections are burned, and once they've got trash built up, this is for very little memory. So that's one of the issues that I'm kind of seeing in this current matchup, or in this current meta, where I'm like, how do I kind of get around that? Now, answers might be just things like Paladin mode Ace, but that takes one of your level 7 slots. But one of the other answers is getting rid of these red cards, obviously not Unleash the Dragon Gene, but getting rid of this red base and biasing more of a blue base. Now, we can play things like Sorai. Sorai strips the top 4 sources. Digimon without Digi-Evolution cards can't attack, so that would be super strong, and that would also help counter these guys coming out onto the field. Or we can play something like Full Moon Meteor Impact. You return a Digimon to the hand, gain 1 memory for every 4 cards in your opponent's hand, or something like a Full Metal Blaze, which bottom decks 2 level 4 lowers. If your opponent has 8 or more cards in hand, return to the hand 2 level 4 lowers. If your opponent has 8 or more cards in hand, it bottom decks a level 6 or higher. So you can play things like that and kind of lean more into the blue aspect. Now, with that being said, the blue aspect might be a little bit better. Or you could run something like a Tamer, where a BT1 Tai Kamiya. Right now, I am running one BT, I think this is 3. Yeah, BT3 Davis. This is a nice searcher. I'm only running one of these. I used to run 2. I've changed this deck a lot since my last deck profile, but Examon does really, really well into Sakuyamon, and you can play around a lot of things. And if Megidramon doesn't pop off, you can counter it pretty easily, and make it so that it can't really do too much. But, like I've talked about, all they need is to have one of these 2 cards in hand, and then they can really just get going again. So, making Examon work might not be the biggest idea, or the best idea for me. That also means I can jump ship onto Megidramon. Now, I've played Chaos Gallantmon since EX4 came out. I have loved the way the deck functions. I enjoy milling people out. But Megidramon is an incredibly powerful deck right now, and I don't really like jumping on bandwagons. And not to say that players that have played this deck are jumping on bandwagons, but this is one of the best decks in the format right now. And I want to go into it being able to compete with players that are playing with the best deck, where I can win with something that's not this. And other players might feel like this, but it's been only a little while since we've had this set out, and we have Megidramon's topping, but like Sakuyamon's been topping for a while now, and Sakuyamon X has been doing super, super well. And whenever I see somebody post on Facebook, oh, I got top 16 in this regionals, here's my Sakuyamon X list, I'm like, this Sakuyamon X list is literally a copy and paste of every single other list. Why are you even no one's gonna watch that? Like, it's frustrating to me, because I just see the same thing every time, and that's what I feel like is happening with Megidramon. It's just a copy and paste the same list over and over and over, and I want to do something more unique. I want to go into something different. So what are some other decks that we can play? Now, this is an old deck, not even that old. I love it. It's a deck this is my favorite deck before it got limited, Mirage Galgamon. This is by far my favorite deck to play. I played it since BT11, since this card came out. Galmon and Galgamon, or Galmon's one of my favorites. Galgamon is literally my favorite Digimon. I've been playing Mirage since this came out, and I joined the game at EX3. So I could play this. Frustrating thing is when you are playing this deck, and this is something that had happened yesterday, if I had this card in my hand, I would have been able to close out game super, super early, or super quick, as we all know. But instead, I had this card in my hand, and my opponent didn't have a Tamer, and so replacing this Mirage Galgamon with the other Mirages just makes the deck kind of function slow, and it makes it not... It doesn't have a lot of power into it. Now, with that being said, I could have easily gone into a BT4. I didn't have it in my hand, but that would have been the better one to go into to keep turn, and I could have potentially won there. But this card is just so strong. It is so good, and it's a little unfortunate that it got limited, and I understand why it did. It was a very powerful card, and I do think Mirage would be doing super well in this meta, considering how much draw power there is. Now, Mirage can really be hit or miss, because if you don't see your BT11, you're not really going to do too much. So now that brings me to another deck. We've got something like Medusamon. Medusamon's a very hyper-aggressive deck. The issue with Medusamon is it is similar to Mirage. This is a glass cannon, because all your opponent needs to do is go, bang, and then your stack is gone, and then you need to continuously rebuild from there. And that can be one of the issues where I can wipe through 5 security in one turn. However, once my opponent's turn comes, if they put up a defensive wall, Medusamon can no longer climb that wall. So that's a big issue. And that's something that Medusamon just doesn't have a defensive side. Now, you could build it defensive and go with a Guilemon line or do a Black War type setup with it. And I'm interested into looking into it, but that's kind of where I'm at with those. Now, one other deck, and this might be a little bit of a side pick, but I definitely think this deck will do super, super well in this format. And let me find the card. There we go. Angels. I think 3-Gate Angels is an incredibly strong deck in this format, especially because Megidramon is becoming so powerful. This end of attack to delete all Digimon, all Dominimon has to do is go, here's a security card for all of his Digimon. I'll burn that. All right, all my Digimon are fine, and they don't leave battle area. Now, I think 3-Gate Angels is a direct counter to Megidramon, and I think that's very, very strong and very, very powerful. However, then when we go to the flip side versus Sakuyamon, how well is this deck going to do against Sakuyamon? Sakuyamon can ramp up into high-level Digimon very, very quick, and I think it just gets outpaced. Because Angels, as much as I love the deck, and I've played it for a pretty long time, it's not as quick. And this Magna Angemon can make it as fast as possible. And once you get into Dominimon, that can be very, very good. However, going into a Ruin mode, and then if you even have a level 5 like this on the field, a Ruin mode minus 5k to the entire board, and then the Inheritables to minus 2/4, this just dies. And you can't protect against the DP deletion. And that's the big thing. Because like I've talked about, Sakuyamon X and Megidramon are some of the most common decks right now in this current format. And it's going to be very hard to get around. So those are the decks I'm kind of looking into. I'm leaning more so on going with the Dominimon. Oh, we lost the card. There it is. Going into with Angels. And I'm also, and like I've talked about, this is also something that like I want to enjoy playing. Examon is also the other deck that I'm interested in going in. So right now, I think my top 4 decks, if I had to choose, it's Mirage, Angels, and Megidramon. And let me just, there we go. Let me fix your camera angle so you can see them. Oh dear Lord. Oh God. There we go. We tried our best. But these, for me, are the, you can see the double sleeve. This is so much bigger. But these are the 4 decks that I think I'm going to be going into. Now, I'm going to do kind of like a road to regionals, and my friend Dave and I have been playtesting a ton. And by doing so, Dave is playtesting Tyrant Kabuterimon. So I've been practicing against Tyrant a ton with my Examon, which also is the reason why I'm like, okay, well, now I need to add something like, oh, where did I put them? I don't know where I put those cards. Oh, here it is. So something like Raging Serpentine, where I'm like, I feel like I need a little bit of security bomb because Tyrant's immune to everything. Now, Megidramon's not immune to anything. It can get immunity to bouncing and being deck bottomed from War Growlmon X right here. But a lot of lists I've seen only play 1 or 2 of those, and they typically don't use it. They want to go right into that War Growlmon and go right into an OTK. So a lot of those decks where I'm like, well, maybe I don't even run the Raging Serpentine, but there's also a chance when they swing, it hits it in security, and then the end of attack never happens. So that's why I'm kind of thinking, well, let's go more into like a blue variant where I can bounce them and go from there. Like Mirage does very well into Magidramon to be able to bounce a lot of things. But like I said, if we don't end up seeing that play here, this Mirage Galgamon, Magidramon just slaughters everything. And if they get up into a Magidramon, they can just easily delete the entire field. We can't really do anything to stop that. And that's why Angels is a great counter to Magidramon. But like I've said, not a great counter to Sakuyamon. Examon does really well into Sakuyamon. It's a close match. It's not a complete counter, but it's a close match. And into Magidramon, it can also be a very close match as well. So it's really hit or miss. Magidramon basically just has to find its Gallantmons. If it doesn't find its Gallantmons, Examon can take it. If it does find the Gallantmons, which typically it always does, then Magidramon can just plow through it. But it's that consistency. And so this is where I'm at. I don't know which one I'm going to do. I have to play test. I think it's definitely going to be down between these three decks, and I'll probably end up just going to the regionals playing Examon. The other deck I'm very interested in, I've been playing Puppets for a while. The new Puppet support, I don't think I'm going to get all the Kaguya-mons I need and the Karakuri-mons that I need before this event starts. So, but Puppets is another one where I'm like, I think I might want to run Puppets because the ability to end attacks and then prevent your deletion is really powerful. So that's what I think I'm going to go for. If I can get all the pieces, it'll be between Examon, Angels, and then Puppets. But let me know what you guys think, what you guys are playing. And if you got specific builds where you're like, I've had a lot of success going in to Magidramon with this deck, or going into Royal Knights with this deck, or Sakuyamon with this deck, or different variations like option cards or tech options in these decks, let me know. Put them in the comments. We can absolutely have a conversation about it. But I just wanted to make a video on my thoughts and what I'm thinking about playing for regionals, and showing you the top 4 decks or the top 3 decks that I'm wanting to play. But other than that, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in another one.